Okay, we're talking about Avatar today, the blue one.
The blue
As
one.
we've been talking about, this is our third time trying to record this because I keep saying things that are going to get us canceled. Uh, so, but I was like, wait, we should start off with some sort of trivia question. And this is one that we definitely haven't already talked about, and is definitely really hard. Why are the humans on Pandora to begin with? There's a
Yeah.
mineral they're looking for, and James Cameron came up with the most original and like compelling name for this thing. That's the whole reason why the Americans, I'm going to say the Americans, are murdering all of these people on this planet. Do you know the name of that mineral? It's tough. I know it's tough.
I know it. I just don't like it. I've rejected it.
You've rejected it outright. Yeah. Well, the answer, Devin, because you didn't know the answer, is unobtainium. because the plot is what justified this movie being the highest grossing movie of all time for a long time. I think until Marvel, right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it was Infinity War, wasn't it?
I think
Infinity
so.
War or Endgame that finally unseated it as the highest grossing film.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I am curious.
I I I hate that. I hate that so much. I'm willing to accept it if it's if they just called it some unobtainable material and some idiot American has garbled it somewhere in the process. But realistically, I think they're going to want to name it after themselves. You know?
Like
Like,
Terrastone.
yeah, something like that. They're going to call it like, oh, yeah, John's Mineral.
John's,
You know?
John's Rock.
Right. Like, they're going to call it something like that. They're not going to go in and say, like, oh, yeah, it's this weird unobtainable material. And the whole gimmick with it, I mean, it's a room temperature superconductor. Yeah?
Something like that.
And
yeah.
it's so perfect. It's going to help solve the energy crisis. They're not calling it that. They're not. I'm just not buying it.
Yeah, no, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I feel like consistently with these movies the lore has come second to the effects.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it's automatically like they're not automatically bad movies, but
they're visual spectacles first and foremost.
Yes. Just like Fast and Furious is like action packed. You're there to watch the action and the crazy stunts. You're not there for family. This says that Avatar is still the highest grossing film of all time. I don't know if it's adjusted for inflation.
Okay. I think they re-released it as well. I think they did a big push to get it back on top.
That would make sense.
I could see that.
But either way, it's still whenever you think of movies, Avatar will come up.
Yeah. So where's a good place to start with the film? Do you want to start at the beginning and kind of work our way through, or do we need to talk about any of the cultural impacts or anything like that?
Well,
you want to save that as we go?
Yeah, we can start with the beginning of the movie. If I remember correctly, it's the humans are on planet, and Jake Sullivan, who's the main character, he is sent out on these missions to kind of explore, gather information, and I can't remember if they have active mining operation already or if they're still trying to get that worked out. But it seems like everything's going off without a hitch.
Yeah.
And then eventually they start running into the Navi people. I can't remember if that's what they're called.
Yeah, so in the world, the basic inciting incident of the plot is it's in the future. The near future, it's within 200 years. I think it's like 2130 something around there.
Yeah, mid 22nd century.
The Earth has used up a lot of its resources. It's ecologically devastated. So the Earth wasted its opportunity to get more renewable energy sources. The planet is a dumpster fire, essentially, and they're here to get this unobtainium to help solve the energy crisis back home, to help space colonization, to increase, the ease and the scale of space travel. And they can do all of this through one specific mineral that they've located on Pandora.
Yeah.
That's the premise.
Yeah, the setting why the humans are here, and what's this operation about?
They immediately run into a problem with that, which is if they can travel to another planet that has habitable life on it, why can't humans live on the planet? Which they solve by, making the atmosphere poisonous. So it's habitable, just not for humans, which I think is a good compromise. It's logically consistent in that way.
Yeah.
But that's the basic setup of the film.
It frames it differently than them trying to colonize the planet. They're
And
still trying to colonize it, but not
yeah,
in the sense of inhabiting it.
right. Yeah, it's not like settler colonialism, it's just colonialism.
It's just resource colonialism.
We just want your stuff.
Yeah.
We don't want to
Yeah.
live here.
Right. Right. And then you do have, I can't remember in the first one if they play on it, but and definitely the third one, and I think the second one, you have the tension between the government and the capitalists,
Hmm.
and then you have the scientists who are concerned about the wildlife, learning more about it.
Yeah.
At some point, they deal with like neurological connections with the planet from the creatures to the planet itself. And so you do have that tension a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's never enough to make the government stop what they're doing,
Hmm.
which is pretty realistic, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I do buy the idea that, you have a bunch of idiot scientists. They're like, oh, well, I thought I was just traveling across the universe for research. It's like, dude, the planet back home is on fire.
Yeah.
We're out of resources. There's nothing left. And they're just like, oh, well, I'm excited to document the wildlife. It's like, they're here to make money.
Well, yeah,
They're here to build stuff.
and because there's at some point in the second and third one, there's a character that comes up who he's hunting the whales in the ocean, and he keeps talking about all the billions of dollars he's going to make. And I'm like, you have a family? And if so, how are they doing? Where are they at?
Yeah.
And all this money is going to help you how? You don't get a lot of that, but this character is like driven exclusively by money specifically. Yeah. But no one seems concerned about life back home. Whether they're just looking at all the flowers, or they're looking at all the creatures, or they're trying to make tons of money.
So I've only seen the first film.
You haven't seen the other two?
I haven't seen the other two.
Oh.
A good chunk of the reason I'm on the film podcast is to watch films.
I know. That's true.
It's because I'm not watching films outside of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think the first one, it has a very compelling premise.
Yeah.
I also think I might be jumping the gun on the analysis a little bit. I think it presents it as a little oversimplified, because you have the Na'vi, and they live in harmony with nature. They don't really do anything wrong. So there's not a lot of nuance there, unless it's been a while. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. I don't think that they are presented with a whole lot of nuance. I think it's a little, it falls into the indigenous people are magic elves who live in perfect harmony with nature and each other all the time and never do anything wrong trope.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have kind of the evil imperialists with their big gas guzzling machines. But at the same time, the planet Earth back home, it is in disrepair. It is an ecological collapse. So it sets up this contrast between, the flawless indigenous peoples of Pandora and these awful, imperialists who are here to gobble up the resources. I don't know. I guess it's not a very nuanced take on some of these issues.
But I think it's a somewhat it's one that's somewhat based in reality and history.
Yeah.
So one of the main not one of the main reasons why Europe colonized America, but it ended up becoming a very important way for them to get out of their own problems.
Yeah.
All the wars that they fought, all the bad decisions that they made, the inciting incident for the American Revolution was Britain's longing to get out of its debt, and
right.
that it was saddled with after the 7 Years' War. And so we do kind of have, whenever we read history and talk about the Native American population and stuff, it almost doesn't matter that they fight among themselves
Yeah.
because the American colonists and the British and the French and the Spanish shouldn't have done what they did. You know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
conquistadors shouldn't have done what they did to the Aztecs and the Incas and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's almost like
Hmm.
he's trying to paint it that way through that lens, where it's like, of course, the indigenous people aren't perfect; they
Right.
have their own issues, but it doesn't change the fact that yes, the planet is dying, but whose
Yeah.
fault is that?
Yeah.
It's not the Navi people's fault.
No.
It's definitely the humans' fault. So you have this
Yeah.
thing where it's like the people here didn't do the thing. Like they are not directly responsible for what happened to their
Mm.
planet, but it is the humans' fault.
Yeah.
So I can, but he doesn't play on it either. He doesn't ever delve into it. He kind of just
Mm.
sets the story, and he doesn't have people besides Jake having these meta conversations about the morality of the situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reason why Jake leaves is because he ends up falling in love too. So he
Right.
does question the morality of their mission and and the humans' way of doing things, but he also falls in love and he has his own personal motivations. He gets his legs because he's a paraplegic.
Yeah.
So whenever he's an avatar, he can run, he can move, he can do all that stuff, whereas before he couldn't.
Yeah.
So they play on that because the colonel who's in charge promises him that they'll give him the use of his legs back if he helps them. And I think it turns out, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm making this up, that they didn't actually have a way to do that. I could be wrong about that.
I feel like you'd have to. I mean,
Yeah,
regardless of what they say, you're able to transfer consciousness into an artificial body.
but to me that changes Jake's story. The
Mm.
it, if they can, and he still chooses to go with the Navi,
Yeah.
that's more impactful than if they had just lied to him.
Yeah. Well, because if there's not a viable way for him to regain some of his mobility in his human body, then the choice becomes very I guess selfish or self-motivated.
Yeah.
You know, if he's just transferring his loyalty in favor of what he personally gains from it rather than any sense of conviction. You know, if he's not giving anything up in the act of transferring his loyalty, that does make it makes it distinct.
It seems
It's
like
a difference.
fairly early on he decides to, because before he finds out that before they find out he's a spy, I think him and Neytiri, is that her name? Yeah. Um, he already kind of falls in love with her, and I think they go as far to like say that they choose each other as like life mates, and then they find out he's a spy. So just narratively,
That is
it's
rough.
pretty early on. So it just sounds, yeah, it sounds like, because I haven't seen the movie in a while, to be quite honest. I think that he just abandons the idea of trying to trust the humans to keep their word.
Yeah.
And so it is more impactful that he decides to leave the humans whenever he could keep his human body and
Hmm.
stick, if he has any family or whatever. I think he takes his dead brother's spot
Yes.
in the Avatar program. So I don't know if he has any other family or not. That would be another wrinkle. But anyway, either way, it's still I think Jake's story is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I can't think of many stories that play on it in this type of way. Um,
Hmm.
so and personalizing the human experience into one person
Yeah.
and just making all the other humans bad with a movie that's supposed to just be a visual spectacle. I think it kind of works.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what it boils down to is a lot of what we're discussing, you know, the character arcs, the historical comparisons, you know, kind of the oversimplification of some historical realities. Um, a, a lot of this is just what would look really cool.
Yeah, that, at the end of the day,
That's the driving force behind
yeah,
so much of
like
this.
James Cameron, he wanted to make a story. Obviously, he made all these interesting creatures. Every movie, they
Yeah,
add new creatures that are like really cool, different peoples of the Navi.
yeah.
So he does care about lore to some degree, and then he'll
Mhm.
just do things like Unobtainium,
Right.
where it's
I think
like,
Unobtainium just encapsulates so many of my gripes with the film. It's oversimplified and nonsensical to the point of absurdity. You
yes,
know, it's
yes.
just that doesn't make sense. Why would you call it that? Yeah, and nobody would.
Unless it was just that
A lot of
the
aspects of the
humans
film
would.
are similar to
Like the
that.
humans would call it that.
Yeah, but
They'd be like, that's hard to get. We're gonna
then
call it unobtainium.
you almost get to the point then where the humans ruined Earth because they're a little stupid. And
Yes.
it's but it's not that exactly. It's
Well,
that
because it's more malicious than that, yeah?
it's more malicious. Oh, they destroyed Earth because they were greedy, because they put themselves first, because human society was a bunch of, businesses fighting over scraps of resources and screwing over the general population. I'd almost rather, rather than calling it unobtainium, it's named after a person. Maybe it's named after the general and he's egotistical about it, or it's named after like a corporation. It's
The
named after the
corporation or the guy who discovered it.
exactly. Or it's one and the same. The CEO of the corporation, he's there. He's like, "Oh, I'm Mr. Coles or
Hmm.
whatever." And it's like, "Oh yeah, Coles Mineral."
Yeah,
And
but after my
so
father.
right. Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. See, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah,
See,
we
something
found the middle road here.
something like
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
where it's like, "Oh, this is how they blew up the planet Earth."
Yeah, it
They're
kind of.
doing this all the time every day.
Yes, this is what they do. It
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of in the Hunger Games, Plutarch, whenever he calls like the capital's fortress the Nut,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it backfires spectacularly because no one wants to bum rush this thing because it's been rumored to be so impenetrable because of the name that they gave it. And
Yeah.
that one, it was interesting because they kind of played on it. They named it
Mm.
after what it was,
Yeah.
and then they had a narrative way to kind of weave in the consequences of naming it something stupid like the Nut
Right.
because your guys aren't gonna want to try to take that thing.
I think
But in this, it's just like unobtainium, but
yeah.
we're gonna go get it.
I think
Uh,
that's true. Yeah, it's a
Like
central contradiction.
it's yeah, it's
I guess one of the things the Hunger Games comparison is useful because in the Hunger Games they're very aware of subtlety of what's being communicated. So much of that story is it's well, what are people wearing? How are
yes.
people playing to the cameras? What are the social implications of this? I don't feel like there's an equivalent element in
No,
Avatar.
no,
And
they
maybe
just didn't
that's
think about it.
because in Avatar there's nothing like the press. There's not an intense scrutiny from like television programs. There's not an entrenched government that's trying to legitimize itself through constant posturing. You get the sense that, oh well, the government, it establishes its legitimacy by keeping humanity alive. It's keeping the lights on.
Yeah,
We need the
yeah.
semiconductors because we're keeping the lights on. And we're going to colonize other planets, we're going to preserve the species.
Well,
And
that and
but
the Hunger Games
yeah.
comparison. Sorry, it comes up again because you have the rebellion government
Mm,
who is created out of necessity,
yeah.
and I guess the capital government as well. And the people just let them do whatever. They were going to have
Yes.
another Hunger Games with the capital officials' kids,
Yeah.
and the population at large was willing to put up with it because this government needed to exist in order to keep the lights on. And
Yeah.
so you're willing to put up with a lot of incompetence and a lot of evil if you're just trying to make sure your families are fed and
Yeah.
ignoring all the stuff that you did to cause this situation.
Yeah.
So, but it just doesn't have the same weight. It doesn't have the same
Hmm.
impact as it does in the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I guess Avatar, it's a very simplistic overview of the topic, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being reductive. Maybe I'm not giving the film the credit it deserves.
Well,
But in my book, this is secondary to something like maybe Princess Mononoke, the Studio Ghibli movie. That movie, it's also very focused on humanity's relationship to the environment, to nature. But what it does is it shows that there are very tangible benefits for humanity to treat nature poorly,
yeah.
right? In Princess Mononoke, it's like, oh, they hate the trees, they're running these big iron smelting furnaces and they're deforesting the area and they're polluting the water. It's like, well, why are they doing that? It's like, well, to form, a city where they take care of lepers and they save women from sex work and they provide good, decent lives and shelter the people from warlords. And so it's like, yeah, okay, they're deforesting the area and they're taking care of all of these social outcasts, all these vulnerable people. So something like Princess Mononoke, it's like, well, what do you want them to do? Like, do you want them to let these lepers die? To leave all these people vulnerable to, marauding warlords and soldiers? It's like that's not an option. Like so you have to use up nature to some degree. You have to have humanity taking something from it. Um, you kind of have that with Avatar because the way it's framed is humanity will take the unobtainium and use it to keep itself alive. But in Avatar, there's not like an intense focus on that, I feel. And maybe it's just that there's not sufficient focus on it, I guess. I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right. There's not enough focus on it at the individual character level. You don't hear the
Yeah,
characters talking about it in any way besides this is my
right.
job. I'm a colonel. I'm a general. I'm a scientist sent by the government. I'm just here to do my job,
Yeah.
and they're not. No one's actively worried about Earth.
Yeah. It's de-emphasized.
Yeah,
Whereas in Princess Mononoke, it's at the forefront. The main character is encountering first, like roaming warlords and communities being devastated. And then he goes to this community that's being protected because it's deforesting the area, because it's cutting down trees and using them to build walls and throwing them into the furnace, to create guns and swords and that kind of thing. In Avatar, it's like, well, we're gonna take all this stuff and we're gonna kill the planet or our planet dies. Like it's just very zero sum, I guess. Maybe it's too big, I suppose. Because if the bad outcome is humanity dying and Earth becoming uninhabitable, it's like, well, that really does justify anything, you know? You can have the most greedy, evil, miserable colonel and military imaginable, but they would be justified, within reason.
sure. From their perspective,
Yeah. It's like that it oversimplifies it, I guess. There's very few situations in real life where it's that zero sum, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
yeah,
Oftentimes there's a lot more give and take.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
with European colonialism, it was not.
Right.
It for them. It was we need colonies because our enemies have colonies.
Yeah.
It's like it's not. It wasn't zero sum.
It was, we need to do this or we're going to fall behind. We're not going to develop as fast. We're going to become subject to our neighboring countries. We're not going to be able to have nice consumer goods.
Yeah.
All of those things they don't justify what's done to foreign populations, in the name of colonialism. If it was, England needs food and their options are colonize Africa or every Englishman dies, it's like
Their motivations become a little
that
bit.
changes things.
Yeah, yeah,
But also just how contrived that situation is. It's like, well, that's not what would happen. There's
yeah.
there's no situation we can conceptualize in real life outside of, nuclear war or total ecological collapse
Hmm.
where that's the situation.
Yeah.
I guess Avatar, by presenting an oversimplified version of it, it takes away some of the moral weight I think the topic might have had otherwise.
Yeah, he could have had a really interesting conversation about it, and it just sounded like he wanted to make humans bad, Navi good.
But you can't make humans bad if humans are doing what they're doing to avoid extinction. Like even
Right.
if humans were bad in the past, you have to do this legwork where it's like, well, yeah, but the current humans responsible for generations of energy policy and resource policy and politics. To come away with that, you have to do the legwork of like, well, all humans in 2130 something
Well, all the
are
humans you
collectively punished for the sins of their ancestors, and there's no getting out of it.
most of the humans you come in contact with
That's
though do
rough.
bad things.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
do.
for
They
sure.
don't care about the Navi. They don't care about the planet. They don't care
Yeah.
about the creatures.
And so they haven't learned their lesson, which
Essentially,
is a way of giving the contemporary generation a palpable guilt. They should know better, and they
yeah.
don't, and they're not going to learn. And the main character is somebody who does learn.
It just
I
doesn't.
guess I guess because Jake learns, he condemns the rest of humanity who doesn't learn.
But it's hard to
Like
learn that
they
lesson
could
whenever
have.
your Earth is already destroyed. And so
Yeah.
that's the other catch-22 is that they can learn this lesson, but then what does that leave them with?
Yeah.
Nothing. You can't, like, they all die if
Yeah.
they're like, okay, we need to stop. We need to stop hurting nature in the universe.
Yeah.
We're all gonna die. And it seems like he had plenty of time. He started developing this film in 1994,
Dang.
15 years before it released. Before he made Titanic, he was thinking about this movie. It was supposed to
That's
be
crazy.
in production after Titanic, but according to him, the technology wasn't there yet. And so he waited another 10 years.
I respect that.
15. I respect
I
that.
respect
But
that.
you had 15 years to figure out your crap
That's true.
regarding your story.
Look, the
It
film
looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a visual spectacle.
The music's good too.
The work done on this is incredible. Every single person involved in making this film what it was should be very proud of their work. It's outstanding.
Yeah.
It's
Except for maybe the writers.
narratively, I think it falls a bit short.
The story works. It's cohesive.
It's
You
not
have
it's not like bad. It's
it just lacks depth.
yeah, it's just oversimplified. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what else do you want them to do? You know, or what am I supposed to take away from it?
Yeah.
Don't have destroyed the environment 100 years ago. Or, you know, this is it's a future story, so don't destroy the environment now. I guess that's a takeaway.
I
But
suppose. Well, and then
it's of limited utility.
But then they move from Jake has multiple motivations going on here. You have the humans destroying things element, but then you also have simply that he fell in love.
Right.
And you also have that he wants to be able to walk again.
Yeah.
And how does that play into it? So they move on from the human struggles to the humans are just bad.
Yeah.
They're actively trying to hurt these people. How do we stop this from happening? And then you have it at the end, spoiler alert, he stops becoming an avatar and just starts becoming he becomes a Navi and becomes one with the tree, the Earth Mother, whatever I can't remember what they call it.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
It's his personal romance. It's his desire to, you know, regain his physical capacity, and then it's also, I think, just falling in love with like an alternative way of life. You know, you really do convert to a new way of looking at the environment, of society. You adopt new social relations. I think those are like the three things he has going on primarily. It's like that's pretty comprehensive. Like, I get why you would switch. Do they ever talk about the feasibility of transferring people to these avatars en masse?
No.
I feel like that's an option. Unless it's been a while. If there's a part in the film where they're like, yeah, it costs, you know, $20 billion to plug you into this thing and we can only make so many.
It's probably just expensive, and relatively speaking, they just got here.
It's true.
So, and eventually at some point, they just abandoned the Avatar program practically altogether.
Yeah.
And they just start sending in soldiers with masks or in the mech suits. And they're
cheaper.
there strictly for resource gathering, not exploration, not any of that.
Yeah.
In the third one, they do play on the humans discovering there's a human in the third one that is able to breathe on his own.
Okay.
And so now you have the humans trying to research that. And if they can do that, and they can just figure out a way to manipulate whatever happened to him on Pandora, and they can do it en masse, that should be pretty cheap. And it would make their mining operation a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure why they can't just do it en masse.
Let's talk a bit about the tree. The tree that the Navi worship.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
The tree that the... what do you mean? I think that having watched all three films, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it he had planned out whenever he made this one, but it does make the planet. It's a living planet that's in communion with one another.
Yeah.
But the creatures are still at odds with each other, and the Earth Mother or whatever she's called, flows through everybody, and they come in communion with it like once a year or something, or when a new member's
Hmm.
added, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting plot device, I
Yeah.
think. Um, I know you probably have different feelings.
I have some issues with it just because it makes social cohesion, it makes, connection to the environment, it makes it literal. That's not an option available to the humans. The humans would have to do all this extra legwork to be that connected to the wider ecosystem, to be more connected to nature. I think, well, and in the climax of the film, you see the flora and the fauna aid in the fight as well. So it's just this total unity of the wildlife on Pandora when it counts, when it becomes essential. Um, that's just not an option available to humanity. And so in a lot of ways I feel like the Navi and other species on Pandora, it's like, well, they're more connected, they're more in tune with nature, but not by choice. There's no moral virtue in it. It's genetic. If it were genetic for the humans, they wouldn't have blown up their planet.
So you're saying the Navi have an external reason to fight for the planet.
Yes.
That it's not something that they chose, and the humans don't have that because
I
they act
mean,
like it's, of
yeah.
course we're going to protect the planet. Of course.
You
Like we
see,
have to.
I know in the other films they delve into, other Navi tribes,
Hmm.
and they delve into, not everyone feels this way.
Not everyone worships the same
But
god,
again,
so to
in
speak.
in the first one, there is that unity. And the climax of the film, with the flora and the fauna, there's this unity that's literal. Humans, we don't have that. And so humans would have to do all this extra work. We'd have to build a society and build customs to maintain that artificially,
Well, isn't
which
that
is
just
more
religion?
difficult. It is in a lot of ways.
And besides the actual literal
Yeah,
in the planet, you have something you can go to that is the god.
right. I just think, but then you'd have to come away with some moral or some lesson where it's like humans need to construct some kind of story or some kind of culture that connects them to the planet right now. You know,
Yeah,
because the Navi they're doing it for a variety of reasons. It's
self-preservation.
right, but they're following the tree and its guidance. They're not breaking its rules. They're not developing the environment. They're not digging the unobtainium out of the ground themselves and using it to build semiconductors. And they're not trading this unobtainium with the humans either. So I don't know. They just I know I keep harping on it. It's just it's simplified.
It is, and I feel like you come away with the idea that James Cameron's saying this is what happens when humans lose religion,
Mm.
which I don't think that's what he's saying. I don't think that's the point he's trying to make.
Hmm. Yeah, without religion, you're destined to use
You
up all your
lose you
resources and
you
lose
lose your
touch with
morality.
nature. Yeah.
You don't have a moral compass anymore. The Navi's morality is based
Hmm.
in their belief system and the god, so to
Well,
speak, that they
and
serve.
and they're very tangible, connection to one another, to nature, in a way that's just not available to humans. Not
Is
one
it's
to
well
one.
because it's a literal connection. They're
Yes.
connected to their bodies that they
Yeah.
can literally connect with nature.
Yeah. I guess I
Yeah.
I know I keep harping on this, but like in Princess Mononoke, there's this forest spirit. There are the wolves, and then there are the boars, and then there's Princess Mononoke herself, who's a human, who's like lived with the animal, kind of like a Tarzan situation, where they're human, but they identify more with the natural world and the animals in it. And they kind of exist as four distinct nature factions within the story. They each have different philosophies for how we should view nature, for how we should resolve the situation, for how we should approach humans, degrading the environment. Just within the film, there's tensions, there's complexity there. In Avatar, for Pandora, it's a unity. It's a literal unity, bordering like a hive mind or something akin to that. Very much so. I guess it's just these forces, the humans from Earth and the wildlife from Pandora, all living creatures on Pandora, could we expect them to do anything differently? I don't think we could. I think that they're kind of stuck in this conflict against each other due to material forces. Earth is on its way out. Um, the Navi and the wildlife on Pandora, they have this unity among them, that this neural connection, these binding lived experiences. I just It makes it very difficult for there to be complexity and tensions within either side, I
Well,
suppose.
and I think Jake is supposed to be that complexity because my first thought is Jake is the only person that has a choice,
Yeah.
but all the humans have the same choice.
Well, but not all humans are in the Avatar program.
Sure, but in his situation, if any of the humans were in his situation, they would have that same choice.
Yeah.
There isn't anything unique to Jake besides the fact that I guess he falls in love.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue, that wouldn't necessarily happen with anybody else. He has the
Mm.
motivation to want to use his legs again.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe he was already disillusioned with the American, but the humans' government's way of doing things. So yeah, I don't know.
There is a kind of beauty, I think, in, the sense that the height of Earth's technological prowess, of all of their research and development, all their funding, all their science, culminates in recreating what on Pandora nature created itself. There is a beauty in that, that the height of human cultural activity or scientific progress is recommuning with nature in a more direct way.
Yeah, and you could argue that James Cameron is at the beginning of the movie, the humans view the Navi as subhuman,
Yeah.
but by the end of the movie, you're almost getting the sense that they are actually more highly evolved, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
than the humans. They're more advanced than the humans,
Yeah.
even though their traditional view of technology isn't as advanced. They're literally communing with the planet,
Yeah.
and so they have a higher level of responsibility and morality than the humans do. So in that
Hmm.
area, they are more advanced than the humans, and so it kind of spins that on its head.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the point. Um,
It does bother me how I don't like the trope of, the magical Indian or the flawless indigenous person as
sure.
like a magical elf. Just because I think it's kind of reductive. You know, I think we deny them a lot of complexity. And if you look at the real history of it, it's not, oh, the conquistadors arrived and they had superior technology and they wiped out, all these peaceful, nature loving Aztecs that never did anything wrong. It's a lot closer to the conquistadors showed up and through political intrigue and trade rallied disparate local tribes against the central Aztec Empire and were able to replace them as the regional hegemon for the sake of extracting resources. And in the process, the Spanish, they spread disease, they murdered a bunch of people, they had a callous disregard for local cultural practices and the value of their lives and environments. Um, I guess it takes the films beyond the first one to get into the idea of, yeah, there's other Navi who don't think this way.
Yeah, the other films do a better job at exploring some of those moral complexities. The
Yeah.
characters, the Navi, actually have choices, and there are right choices and there are wrong choices, and they have to wrestle with that.
Yes.
Whereas in this one, it is almost everything they do is justified.
Yeah.
Everything they do, it's very clear. This is what we have to do to survive.
And I think we get that because it's oversimplified and it's idealized. The lived reality of a lot of native peoples was you're up against a technologically superior foe, but you're able to trade with them to get potential um, advantages over your contemporary peers. So overwhelmingly, native tribes would trade for guns, and then they would use those guns in warfare against other local tribes. That happened in the Americas, that happened in Africa. Um, there's not really anything like that in Avatar. It's just they're a unity and they're good, and that's the way it is. There's could it be differently? Well, genetically, they have this unity. They have this neural network. So, I don't know. I guess the takeaways are limited.
Yeah.
That's a personal choice. That's a personal stance. I think addressing some of the complexities of colonialism, and I'm not saying, hey, I think colonialism was great. I'm saying it was not faceless goons with rockets wiping out millions of flawless angels who had no divisions amongst them. I think I think it's a mistake to deny the complexities of personhood to some of these communities. I think we do them a disservice in that way.
Yeah, it takes away the autonomy of the affected peoples.
It's infantilizing, I guess is the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for. It's like, oh yeah, they're primitive. It's like, no, they're human
They
beings.
had the
They have the
culture
same.
and yes, and the same fears, the same everything, the same motivations and stuff.
Yeah.
So is there anything else we want to talk about with this movie? We've gone over the meta narratives and some of what the individual
Yeah.
characters are doing. There is like there's Jake's CO who he has a fight with at the very end, and he dies, kind of. And there's um, is it Winona Ryder? Is that her name? Her character?
I don't.
No, not Winona
Surely
Ryder.
not.
Who is it? I can't remember. Who am I thinking of? Sigourney Weaver.
Okay.
Not Winona
Yes.
Ryder. Sigourney Weaver.
I was unless I completely missed something in this movie.
Yeah, no. I just don't know what I'm talking about. She becomes an avatar too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It didn't do much for me. To be honest with you, not a lot, and a lot in this movie didn't really do much for me. It was just kind of like, oh, this looks really cool, and it set up the
Yeah.
future movies, which I enjoyed far more.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that makes them better. I just enjoyed watching them more.
These movies, I can only speak to the first one, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a visual spectacle. Nothing else looks as good as this movie. I mean, some of the Lord of the Rings, the Pirates of the Caribbean, comes close in terms of visual effects, as far as CGI. But the Avatar films they're on a whole nother level. Nobody's doing it like them. I do think part of their lack of cultural impact, nobody quotes these films. Nobody knows the names of the characters from these films. Nobody hums the songs from these films. I think that it shows the story's overall weakness or simplicity. I think you have to read it as a cautionary tale at best.
Yep.
Hey, don't get into this situation.
It's a commentary on climate change and
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, treat
humans.
the environment better now so that we're not fighting wars that we cannot avoid in 100 years over climate
Right.
resources.
Yeah.
You have to read it as a, Scrooge, an Ebenezer Scrooge dream. The ghost has visited us in the night. We've gotten 3 of them. And each one shows us what not to do. We have to learn to appreciate the present better. I think is the kind of the moral takeaway from the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's more characters. They're just not interesting. At least not to me.
Not to me. Not in this movie.
Yeah, they might get there
I
in
like
future ones.
yeah, yeah.
But for this one, it's
If I was
not
just to
doing
let,
anything for me.
I think the Navi people, they do a lot more in the other films for their development, and I really like them as in the films.
Okay.
But if I had to limit it to just this one,
Mm.
it's okay, cool. And like we said, everything they do, I basically agree with.
Yeah.
They didn't have any other choice, and so they're not doing anything interesting by default. Because they're not doing anything unexpected. Jake does something unexpected.
Yeah.
He's the only guy in the movie that does anything out of the ordinary, and that's kind of why he's so important.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's just not, the plot details just aren't that interesting.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. They still made a ton of money.
It is a
So-
stunning movie.
Yes.
Is what it boils down to. I think I almost think having a more complex plot would be a distraction from the effects, if that makes sense. I think it's nice to just have a very simple skeleton to kind of drape these visual effects over,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for Avatar. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.